In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I created our wedding invitations. Brian and I got married this past August, and I have promised that I would show our wedding invitations and how to make them. These are based on the slider card technique that I shared a couple videos ago. So if you missed that, I will put the link in the description down below for you. And I used some retired product as well as some current Stampin' Up product, and they were just so well received. They have such a wow factor to them. Now, I made over 100 of these, so they were definitely a labor of love, but they were worth it. They were really worth it. So I will show you how I made the invitations. The card that I demonstrate, though, I'm actually turning it into an anniversary card for Brian next year. But you will see all the steps, all the products that I used, and I may even sneak in some wedding photos for you too. So I hope you enjoy this video. Let's get to it. Here is our wedding invitation. This is one of the last ones that I managed to save for us, for our memento, but I'm going to show you today how I put this together. So this is based on my slider card that I did in a couple videos back. So I'm going to take off the belly band that has the love pressed into the gold glitter wax. Some products obviously not Stampin' Up. And some of the products that I used on this card are retired. So I need to put that out there too. It was just fun to pull in all my goodies that I have here in stash. So I'm going to zoom out because I want to show you what this does. Grab the tabs and you slide them out, and it has all the information written on here. So the top pullout has, "With joy, you are invited to the wedding of Tina Zinck and Brian McDonald." And then the bottom portion has our date, which is August 20th, 2022 at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, outdoor wedding at our home, and then our address, and then reception to follow. And I did a little punch here so people would kind of figure out that this was an interactive card. And I must say, people were blown away. And then I have the die cut, a little gold heart. And then when you open it up, it has a printout for our ceremony and party and our reception and the time. And then also I tucked in a card for our brunch the following day. And then I also tucked in a little printout for our barbecue the night before our wedding. So that is what our guest received, with coordinating stamped envelopes, of course. So I'm going to say I made about 120 of these, which is probably why I've been taking my time in getting to this video, because I'm like, oh my gosh, do I have to make another one of these? But they were fun. They are a fun card, and I'm going to show you exactly how I put them together. Okay, so first off, I have a card base. Now, these were sold actually on our clearance rack when I bought them. And these were our note cards and envelopes. It's 4x6. And actually, they weren't called note card and envelopes, but they were the card bases, the 4x6. And now that I'm saying that, let me double check. It's actually 6 1/4 by 4 1/4. And so the card bases were already folded and cut, and it came with the envelopes, and it came with little note cards and envelopes with it too. So that's what I bought off the clearance rack. You always got to check our clearance rack because we always have fun items on there. And the gorgeous designer series paper that I used for our invitations and just a lot of items in our wedding, like our wedding favors and what have you, was the expressions in ink, which I absolutely loved. So I ended up stocking up on that last year, knowing I was going to use it for my wedding. So that, again, retired. I don't have any left except for what I pre-cut for my invitations and didn't use. So I will be using these in my scrapbook so that it coordinates with everything. I also used the coordinating stamp set, which was artistically inked. And this stamp set is still available with Stampin' Up! In our current catalog on page 105. So that is in our current May 22 to April 23 catalog. It has coordinating dies. I actually didn't use the dies on the card. So that's one of the stamp sets that I pulled in. As you can see, I stamped it on the RSVPs. I stamped it on the, and that was also for our website that we had. I just stamped it on our little printouts for the barbecue, and I stamped it on the envelopes too. So used the stamp set a lot. So I just cut my designer series paper to fit on this card base. So because it was 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, I cut this down to measure 4 by 6 and glued it on, easy peasy. And then it comes down to the mechanics of the slider card. Okay, now I don't have any more of this cut, so I'm going to do that now. This is Blushing Bride. Fitting, right? That's not why I chose it. I just like this color. So I'm going to cut this down at 4 1/2 by 4 1/4. And is that right? Nope. Woo, good save. And I need 2 pieces. That gives me 2 pieces. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside. Then I have a piece of navy blue cardstock, and this is cut at 4 1/4 by 4 because this is going to get layered on the front piece like so. Next, I have a piece of the designer series paper, and this is cut 3 3/4 by 4. Am I doing that right? 3 3/4 by 4. Yes, that is going to get glued on like that. Okay. Then I need another piece of Night of Navy, and I don't think I have any more of those pieces cut, so I'm going to go ahead and do that next. I've cut out my Night of Navy. This measures 3 1/2 by 3 3/4. A lot of layers on this, but you know, wedding invitations sometimes, you know, as simple as, there's a lot of beautiful simple invitations out there is what I'm saying. But sometimes you just want to do a little over the top. And actually I showed Brian some of the ideas I was saving on Pinterest and seen something kind of similar, and he's like, oh, that's nice. Of course, the one that had the most bits and pieces involved in making it, right? So, and then you can see I have a piece of basic white cut the same size, and that piece is going to be die cut. So I'm actually going to go ahead and just glue these bits together. And these were the same colors I incorporated into our wedding decorations and our flower bouquets and all the rest of it. It turned out so, so pretty. Okay, so I'm gonna put this stuff aside for a moment, because now I want to create the track that I need for opening and closing our invitation. Okay, so I know I did that last video showing you how to make a slider card. That was a little bit ago, so I'm doing this by memory now. So I'm gonna line this up. Now I will say one side is a little bit shorter than the other, right? So I'm working on the 4 1/4 side because this is 4 1/2. So on the 4 1/4 side, I'm gonna slide it so that I'm gonna cut it down. So I'm just gonna line it up at the 1/4 inch mark on my paper cutter. And then I'm pulling my blade to the 1/2 inch mark, and I'm going to slide it down so that it's almost like 1/2 inch shy of coming all the way down. So down to the 3 3/4 mark right there. I'm going to spin it around and do the same thing. 1/2 inch down to 3 3/4. Okay, so that's going to add the magic for the sliding up and down. Now I am opening up my drawer on my desk where I have my cellophane bags and things that I save from packaging, because you can always use this stuff. And these ones had dies that you're seeing right there. I use, let me see now, and I showed it in my last video, but of course I can't find one right now. But even the bits left over from the plastic, I should say, that covers the Stampin' Dimensionals will work. Any plastic like that. So I am cutting off the end where it folds over and seals. Okay, so that's going in the garbage, recycling. So then I have an open little pocket, right? So this is where you've got your end. You want to keep that. So I'm going to turn it around and cut down on the side. And I want it to be open, so I'm going to cut that seam off. Okay, so it's open now, right? And the seam is down here on the bottom. Doesn't matter too much how wide you cut your strips. I learned that from making so many of these. Doesn't matter really, because if there's excess, you can trim it off. You just don't want to have it too short, of course, right? So here's what you do. And if you watch my last video, or if you've seen tutorials on how to do this slider card, you'll already know this. But I'm just sliding it in through this bottom slot, and I'm pulling it out from the top. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some tear and tape, and I'm actually going to bring my placemat in because I think you might be able to see a bit better. Okay. I'm going to take a piece of tear and tape. I'm just going to pull off a little bit like that. I'm going to pull this end down and put my tear and tape right there. Okay? Then I'm going to grab my handy dandy take a pick tool and lift this up like so. And then I'm going to turn this around. It's easier for me because I got the camera right below my nose here. So I'm going to hold this kind of tightly down and pull this up tightly up across that adhesive, because I don't want this to be too terribly loose. It doesn't have to be uber tight, but you don't want it to be super duper loose either. No loosey goosey here. Okay, so this is what creates the magic. This is what creates those bits on the top and bottom to open and close, right? Way fun, way fun. So I'm just gonna slide this up so my adhesive is up on that slot line, because that is actually acting as a stopper, right? So it's not going through. I mean, you could push it really well. No, it's not going to go through, and that's good. That's what you want. So I'm just putting it so it's center. Next up is creating the actual pull tab bits that are going to go inside the card. So that took a little bit of time, let me tell you, to get that all organized, because it was a template. I'm trying to see if I have extras. I thought I did. I hope I did. But it was a template I purchased off Etsy, and I had to really play around with getting the sizing to work the way I wanted, and I pretty much nearly lost my mind with that part. So let me see if I have some already printed. Okay, so I don't have any more printed, and I'm not going to print any more because I don't need any more of these invitations, but I can definitely turn this into a card that I can give to somebody. Now, the die that I used for the scallop on my pull-out piece is from the Pinned Flowers die collection, so it's that border die right there. Okay, so I'm going to put this on my die cutting machine and cut this out. I actually find when you're using long dies, in my experience, maybe I'm just odd, but I find they work better when I go up and down like that. Okay. And I'm just gonna cut that out. So I'm gonna position this. So this is the 3.5 side, and I'm just gonna kind of position it so I can get some of these trees and everything on there. Oh, and I'm also going to lift this up just a little bit too, so that it's not right down on the edge. But you do want to make sure it's straight. Cut that out. Okay, and then I'm going to pop all the little bits out. Like that, and then you sweep all of that bits on your floor. Then you vacuum the next day. This is going to get put on here, but I want to emboss on this, heat emboss. So I'm not going to do that yet. I just thought I would do the die cut while I had my machine out. So now I have my second piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to take my 1-inch circle punch. Now this is a retired punch from Stampin' Up. We do have dies that you can use as well. And I'm just putting in the paper halfway up and punching to kind of make like a little slot. And look what I just did. I cut on one of the pre-printed pieces for our brunch, but that's okay because I don't need those anymore. So I'm recycling. Okay, so I'm just going to line this up down along the bottom. And I'm just going to leave that little bit. I'm not going to worry about that. So this is going to be the bottom. That's going to be the top. This would have been pre-printed again, like I said, with our wedding information. So now it's time to do some stamping. I have had these stamps sitting on my desk literally for months because I knew I was going to be doing this video. It'd be so nice to have this all done. Now there's a few different colors I can use for this stamp. I don't need that one right now. We are just going to stamp this one. And I'm going to stamp it with Calypso Coral actually. But I don't want it to be full strength. So I'm going to stamp it off on my placemat. And then I'm going to stamp it so that the squiggles are facing up, like so. And then I'm going to do the same thing down on the bottom, like so. Okay, now I used Petal Pink. I used what color now? So Saffron, because there are so many colors in the designer series paper that I used, that I was able to kind of do some different than the others as far as this particular stamping bit goes. So now I want to stamp something on these two pieces. So this is not going to be a wedding card because I don't have any more of my templates printed. And again, I just found those off of Etsy. So I might turn this into a first anniversary card for my guy and set it aside. So I'm going to do Embrace Each Moment, and I'm going to stamp You Will Always Be My Forever. Actually, I'm going to stamp Have I Told You Lately That I Love You. And I'm just going to stamp this with black Memento ink. Okay, so I'm going to stamp this up at the top. Like that. And then I'm going to take the You Will Always Be My Forever, also in the black, and I'm going to stamp it right down here. Oh my gosh, that looks so nice. Okay, now I'm going to bring in my bottom piece. Okay, so I know I'm pulling in some retired product, guys. I don't normally do that because I don't want people to be upset you can't get this stuff anymore, but that's why it's important to get the things that you want before they're gone. But I'm going to pull in Love and Happiness. It retired last year, and I'm going to pull in the sentiment, Here's to Another Year of Love, Laughter, and Happily Ever After. Now I'm going to stamp this down here. Okay, from the same stamp set, I'm pulling in the sentiment, Happy Anniversary, My Love. So I didn't even plan for this to be an anniversary card, but how perfect that I'm showing you how I made our wedding cards, and I'm going to be using the same design for our first wedding anniversary for my husband. I love how that turned out. And I actually am going to pull this back in because I do want to pull in, I think I'm going to pull in some Petal Pink actually. No, I'm going to pull in some So Saffron. So I'm just going to stamp this going the opposite direction. Oh, and I forgot to stamp off. That's okay, I like it. It looks good. And I'm going to go in the opposite direction here. Such a fun stamp design. Isn't that just so pretty? Now, that was pretty dark for So Saffron. I have just re-inked all my ink pads because I use them so much for all our wedding stuff that they got really dried out. So now they're really not dry. They're really, really wet. Okay, so now let's put this together. Okay, so I am going to put these onto my card using tear and tape again. So I'm going to take a strip of tear and tape and I'm going to put it down on the bottom here. I think I'm actually gonna put 2 strips. Peel that off. Okay, and then I'm gonna line up this edge down below. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna line it up to make sure it's centered between that slot line, right? Because this is now gonna move, hopefully. Come on now. Yeah, there we go. So that's gonna move, right? Okay, now I'm gonna take tear and tape. I've flipped this around. And I'm gonna put some on this upper portion. And you don't want it to go past your plastic bit, because otherwise it's gonna stick onto this portion and then it won't work. And then you'll be sad. Okay. So all I'm gonna do here, so this is my stamp bit, right? I want that to come down the bottom. So with this facing down, I'm going to glue this right up here. Also centering it between that cut line. So then when you flip it over, you pull, that's what you're gonna get. Right? So cool, so cool. So now I'm gonna pull in some dimensionals. So you can use mini dimensionals, you can use our adhesive strips. I use a little bit of everything. And I'm also making sure that I've got the flat side facing in the center, just to make sure it makes a nice track. And if you need to, you can slide this down. You want to make sure it's center. So I'm going to do the same thing here. So remember this piece where we had glued that bit on? We're going to go ahead and just make a sandwich and just line everything up. So it's like your little sandwich. And it hides the message. And now we're going to do the same thing with more dimensionals on this side. Now this gets put onto the card base, and I'm just centering it so that this top and bottom have the same amount of designer series paper showing on the top and bottom. Okay, so now it's on my card base. Love it. Now that I have this all glued together, I want to finish the front part. So to do that, I am going to take my embossing buddy and I'm going to just position this on top of this. Now on my original, on my wedding invitations, I used a retiring stamp set called, it's a long time retired stamp set called Itty Bitty Greetings. I used the Forever and Always stamp for our invitations, and because this is going to be an anniversary card for my honey, I have decided for this card to pull out a stamp that I had custom made, and it's got our names and the date of our wedding on it. So I want to use that for the anniversary card. And I'm going to stamp it with my Versamark and emboss it in gold. So Tina and Brian, August 20th, 2022. And now I'm going to glue this on. Now, we have adhesive sheets, and I always forget to use them, but they would make this step a whole lot easier. But this is how I ended up doing my my invitations, is I literally just put just tiny little dabs of glue on the back of this. So that's actually pretty easy. And then I just lined it up and stuck it on. Okay, and now I've just put some glue behind this piece, and this gets glued on the front of my invitation. In this case, anniversary card. There's already quite a few Stampin' Dimensionals on this, and I was thinking for mailing, because there's still another layer to go on this, so I thought I'm not going to put dimensionals behind that piece. So there is that. Now the next step is I'm going to add a little heart, and I have a piece of our gold cardstock, so this is just a piece of scrap, and again a retired Stampin' Up punch. And we do have heart dies and things like that, but you guys, honestly, of course, I have retired Stampin' Up product and I want to use it. So I put that on with the Stampin' Dimensional. So I used a mini Stampin' Dimensional for this. And that just went on right here. And actually this looks really cute with our stamp here because there's a heart in that. And that is the invitation, right? So of course when you pull it out, well, again, I made this into an anniversary card, but I will show you the invitation. So I've got the forever and always, and with joy you are invited. And then when you open it up, the top is to the wedding of Tina Zinck and Brian McDonald, and on the bottom it had our date. And then of course the inside with all the particulars, and then the inserts for our brunch and what have you. The inside of this one, I'm actually going to peel these off and put something different in there, maybe a photo, and then just something all lovey-dovey for the anniversary card. Now, the last thing I want to do to finish this card, and this is what I did on our wedding invitations as well, is I took a piece of Night of Navy. Now this measures 2 1/4 by 10, and I know I scored these when I was, you know, making so many of them, but I just fold it around so you get the crease marks. And before I glue that belly band together, what I did on our invitations is I took this beautiful embossing folder, and this embossing folder is the Fern 3D embossing folder on page 176 of our current catalog, and I'm going to run it through my machine. So I'm just going to put this on just like that, and I'm going to fold those under and run it through my machine. And look how pretty that is. Bring my tear and tape back. And then I just lined it up in the back. So there's the belly band. I had ordered some wax seals off of Amazon. Actually, I think I got this one at a craft store. So this one says love, and this one has like the tree of life. So I had both glitter glue sticks and the wax. On the envelopes for the invitations, I had, of course, stamped them, and on the back we used blue wax and stamped this tree of life, and that's how we sealed the back of the envelopes. Brian did that. And then for the seals on the card, let's see, now this is my glitter glue. Let's get that going. Okay, now for the glitter glue, I'm just going to squeeze some out here. So I'm going going to take the love and I'm just going to push it down in this big blob here. And then do the same thing here. And I just found these glitter sticks at the craft store. There. Can you guys see that? I've got the word love. There you go. Now I've got my regular glue stick plugged in. And also from the craft store, I had bought sprigs of ferns. And I actually used a lot in our wedding arrangements. But I also tore some bits off for our invitations. So that is going to go on this part. Now while that glue gun is heating up, I'm taking my 3/4 inch circle punch, and of course again you can use dies for these, and I am going to glue this behind this wax seal. And the reason for that is when I was using the heat glue directly behind this onto my belly band, it was so hot that it actually would melt this layer. So what I did is I just took my glue, come on glue, put just a little dollop behind, and then put my little paper circle behind that. Then my hot glue would go on that, and then I could put it on my belly band without the seal melting with that hot glue. Okay, so I think this glue gun is ready, so I'm just going to put a little dab. Don't need much. I'm going to put my little fern, and then I'm going to glue this right on top. Now, as I mentioned, I stamped my envelopes too, of course. So I'm going to bring in my Blushing Bride. I'm using the Artistically Inked stamp set, which is the same set that I used on the invitations. And I'm just going to stamp that there. Okay, now I'm pulling in my Petal Pink. I'm going to stamp off and just stamp it there. And also on the back of the envelope, I used Magenta Madness, also retired, but that was one of the colors in the Designer Series paper. So I'm just going to stamp that on the corner like so. Then my So Saffron to do the center of the flower. Night of Navy. So I just stamped some leaves using Pear Pizzazz, and then Shaded Spruce for the bigger leaves on this one. Okay, a lot going on that envelope, but it's pretty, it's colorful, it's fun. Then I addressed the envelopes, and I didn't have any custom return stamps made yet, so I'm just gonna put I'll just leave it at that. Okay, so I addressed my envelopes, and then it was time to stamp the back. I used a stamp from a set that I have had probably for about 20 years, probably more than 20 years, and it was perfect for the back of this envelope. The pleasure of your company is requested. So I'm just going to show you. I made an extra envelope by mistake. This was for my uncle. But you can see the stamping wasn't as vibrant on these envelopes because I had been stamping so much that the ink pads weren't quite as wet. And so I actually liked the softer look. So they weren't as vibrant as what I just showed you here. And then on the back you can see that I had what I just showed you, and we also had our wax seals. So here's the actual wedding invitation. This one was an extra, which is good because I want an extra one for us. So yeah, the belly band, you can see that the wax seal is nice and round. The one that I did in this video, not so much, but still, it's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? So Brian did all the stamping for me for the seals and the little the wax seals for the envelopes. My best friend and maid of honor Shalyn helped me pre-cut the supplies. So it took a long time to do these, but it was totally a labor of love. And then of course the forever and always, our wedding invitation information, which by the way, during the filming of this, I did find some cutouts that I had done. So this is all I did, found the template, printed them out, cut them, stamped them, and glued them onto those panels. Has our wedding date, and then when you open it, that will be perfect for an anniversary. And I'm also going to show you our, well, I'll show you some wedding photos, but I'll also show you our, some of our wedding favors. So we had the little bubbles for after the ceremony, but we also had, I had purchased a template for these fun newspaper programs, and oh my goodness, what a hit they were. So these were passed out with the bubbles, so it has best day ever. This was a big hit, and this was really fun to work on. Template again from Etsy. So I had our date and our timeline, our ceremony, our photos, our buffet dinners, speeches, dances, a little blurb to our family, our wedding party, and then on the back of it, a fun wedding themed word search, a little memorial portion for those family members we wanted to have in memory, and then our little how we met, a little blurb about how Brian and I met. That was kind of fun. So everybody loved that. And our wedding favors. So when you open this up, oh, I should show you. Hold on, I'm jumping the gun. So little photos, forever and always, and the little boxes for Stampin' Up, the little heart embellishments, also Stampin' Up. Everything on this is Stampin' Up. And I gave my idea and vision to Shalyn, BFF, maid of honor, gave her the supplies, and she whipped these up. I'm telling you, she made, I think we made 150 of these. So Shalyn did all of that. And then off of Amazon, I found these keys. It says, thank you for being a key part of our life, but they're actually bottle openers as well. So there's 3 different kinds of key designs. So I thought that was pretty cool. But in case somebody didn't realize it was a bottle opener, I also had another custom made stamp. So here's a well-used custom-made stamp that I stamped on the back that says, the key to happiness is love and the ability to open a bottle with our date. So that was also a hit. This was left over from a box of gifts I had gotten from Stampin' Up, I think a couple years ago. So I'm glad I saved all that because those also, the blue and the white, of course, part of our wedding colors. So that was that. So yeah, it was pretty awesome. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope if you're planning on making some wedding invitations or invitations for a special occasion that this will give you some ideas or a jumping off point on what you can do. And yeah, they were a lot of fun to make. So thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. Take care and happy stamping.